Now, welcome back. Now, yesterday, during a presser, the Namibian Statistics Agency announced that it plans to recruit approximately 13,000 temporary workers to help conduct the 2023 Population and Housing Census slated for August to October this year. Initially set for 2021, as per the international guidelines for census to take place each decade, the census comes 2 years later due to the pandemic and financial constraints. Now, during last year October mid-table budget statement, Finance Minister Iipumbu Shiimi announced an allocation for the census and followed through in last month's 2023-2024 budget statement with an allocation of 706 million Namibian dollars. Now, joining us with more on the Namibia Statistics Agency's mandate and also talk about the Envision Census is a manager for corporate communication, Mr. Iipumbu Sakaria. Good morning and welcome to GMN, sir.
Good morning, sir. Good morning, Namibia.
Okay. It's good to have you here. Talk about this important matter. Let's basically, in a nutshell, before we start with our deep conversation, and just a light, mild introduction. What is a census?
What is a census? Yes, it's a very good question. A census is really just the collection of information where you actually conduct what you call a survey. You go around the country and you collect statistics on, number one, most importantly, the population. You want to understand the people in the country. How many are you? Where are you? Who are you? Then you also have now what you call housing. So it's a population and housing census. So it's a population, you study the people demographic information so that you can understand your people, who you are, how many you are, etc. And then housing, that is an element of your living condition, living standards of those inhabitants of the country. What does that mean? Simply to say, in what kind of environment do they live? What kind of, do they have houses? What kind of houses do they have? Where do they get water from? Do they have water? Do they have electricity? How are they employed? Are they not employed? You need to understand an environment so that you can plan properly and do, or not even just plan, but also to monitor what you have done. So it's really a collection of demographic, social statistics of the country.
Okay.
Yes.
Good. Thank you for that. Now, let's get to the fact that this it was postponed for 2 years. It comes 2 years later. Are there no implications with regards to it being delayed? Has that made an impact?
Has that made an impact? Of course, every action has an impact, but every impact is also manageable, or depends how you manage the situation. You are aware that there was, during that time, we had a pandemic of COVID, for example. So that would have, number one, already been very irresponsible during such a pandemic to go out to people's houses, especially in the method we use to collect information. So number one, you would find the resistance, and also it wouldn't be as effective as it ought to be. Then the other constraint was, of course, finances. We all knew what COVID did to finances. And in life, one needs to allocate resources efficiently. At that time, it was more efficiently and smarter to use those resources to maybe fight COVID, for example. Because of what good is it to you? You have a census, but you have a pandemic and everybody has a challenge, you understand?
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Let's talk about the fact that following the mapping exercises, the piloting census and other activities over the last 2 years, how much did this make up for the delay?
Yes, you see, the census, it has processes, it has phases. So it's a census process. So it's not really just there you come and collect, you count people and apparently you are done. No. It's something completely different. So usually you have three phases. So you have a planning phase, and then an enumeration phase, and then a post-enumeration phase. So it's a process where you, number one, you have a pilot. A pilot, it just means you start testing your tools. Then you have a mapping exercise. What does the mapping do? You actually map the whole country. You go throughout the whole country and you locate and record every physical infrastructure in the country so that you have a database of physical infrastructure of the country. That's your mapping exercise. But then, of course, concentrating on homes, houses, and then, of course, you have installations and all types of things. So it's a process. So we've done those two processes. We've finished them. Now we're at the process where we're starting with the enumeration phases. Enumeration just means now we come and really physically go to each and every household, and that is there where we engage our people and ask them the relevant question. The most important question, of course, is to understand how many people are in a household, because it's a household survey, meaning you go to households. That's your demarcation. So that's essentially it. But in terms of gaps, the processes prior, they are done. So we are now at enumeration phase, and then the post-enumeration phase, very, very important. Your post-enumeration phases is where you now have your data quality assurance. So we are going to, after the exercise is done, a week later, you are going to have enumerators again, but in much, much smaller quantities or numbers, and they just do what you call quality verification, quality assurance. Because your purpose is also not just to produce statistics, you must produce quality statistics. So then you have verification of such in their own methods until it's done.
Okay. With that said, are we, in short, briefly, are we ready for the census to come August?
We will be ready, definitely. You have to be ready. You definitely have to be ready because it's a massive exercise. It's very intense. It's highly relevant. We can say it's long overdue. The last census was in 2011. We must all be honest to ourselves that
our data is not on point.
We need to update our data. It's just it's beyond debate.
Yes.
Because it's just a reality. You just need updated information because situations change.
Yes.
So that's what you have, and we just have to be ready, and we will be ready. Of course, this is what is very important. That's why we need to understand it's not an NSA project. It's a national project. It can only be achieved if it is done by the nation. That's why we will, of course, we have a strategy in place to ensure that we get the best out of it and everybody's involved, everybody executes it. Of course, not in the literal sense, but in terms of it's not an NSA project. Of course, it's an NSA-led project, but without the assistance, logistics of the other institutions, of ourselves,
it will not be possible.
It will not be possible.
Okay.
But together, of course, it is possible.
Yes, I think the better the statistics, the better that we are all able to plan it affects our daily lives, everybody. Yes. Let's talk about the fact that it will be spatially enabled and digital census. For the sake of our viewers, what does that mean? Are we moving away from the old traditional of having physical enumerators come into a household? Yes,
it's twofold. It's number one, like it says, spatially and digitally enabled. What is spatially? Spatially is just space. In short, geography. You add location to statistics that allows you to have more informed statistics based even on location. And then you add spatially and digitally. Digitally just means now, of course, you know, in the past we used to have questionnaires, paperwork, a lot of big questionnaires. And we used to go around. Of course, those were the times. But now, of course, those methods are changing, and we are moving very much away from it. It doesn't mean that you are done with it. You'll never be done with it, because environment circumstances dictate different methods. So you will be able to do that. So it just will be spatially and digitally enabled, and it just enhances the statistics that we have.
Okay. Now let's talk about the allocation of 706 million. Would you say that is sufficient, or that will suffice for the NSA and all the other stakeholders to effectively implement and manage this census?
Yes, of course. Like I said, it's not about what is allocated to you. It is about how do you use what is allocated to you together with everybody to ensure that this project of serious magnitude is actually executed. And like they said, together you achieve more. if you look at, often people look at figures and say, oh, the money is so much and it's so much and we thought it's so much or it's supposed to be this. You'll never have a perfect figure. Everybody will have his own view on how much is enough. But the idea is, how do you effectively use what you have together to achieve a common cause? And that is to update urgently the statistics or the population and housing statistics of the country.
Okay, now let's talk about one important thing that you highlighted, that you'll be recruiting approximately 13,000 people to assist with this task. And it's indicated that the application will be online. Will it strictly be online? And why is it important for recruiting individuals from their different localities? What kind of impact will that have for the census?
Yes, impact, great impact, of course, great impact. We all know the socio-economic environment of our country, the statistics. It's not as bad as we always think it is. We're much better off than many other countries or many other geographic environments. We have a lot to appreciate for, but we must also be aware that your socio-economic indicators also have challenges. One of the greatest ones is employment. That's why you spoke about 13,000 or whatever enumerators, or people that essentially the figure is, of course, is an approximate number, but that is not really. It's just to say that it consists of a lot of different employees. So you will have enumerators, you will have IT personnel, you might have HR personnel, you might have statisticians, you might have security, you might have observers, you might have people seconded from here and there. So it's all a process. So it's not essentially to say that you'll necessarily just go hire 13,000. No, it's probably just to say you'll get that's your human resource that you would like to employ in the most efficient manner to get things done. We all know we have secondments, so it's not purely just new employment. Yes.
Okay. Now, as we begin to wrap up our conversation, let's talk about the status of other surveys such as the National Housing Income and Expenditure Survey, the Labour Survey, and Agricultural Survey. What is the status of this survey? Will they have an impact on this upcoming census?
Yes, impact. The first one, Labour Force Survey, where we will include, due to logistics, will include in the questionnaire, of course, elements that will answer much needed labor data. So that is solved. Your household income and expenditure survey, that's a survey on its own. So that one requires a different time frame. It requires different resources, and it's highly needed, but the census comes first. Then the other one is the agricultural survey as well. Like you said, it's all about updating statistics, irrespective of what sector now it is, and having relevant ones. So as soon as probably we just improve getting that done, then better for everybody.
Okay. Well, unfortunately, we ran out of time, but thank you very much. We wish you all the best, and we hope to have you back in studio just to engage as the process gets closer, and also engage post the census process and just get those specific data that we need to also help us plan as they also influence national development plans, the Namibia Prosperity Plan, and etc. growth home strategy at home.
Thank you for having me.
Okay. Now, that was Mr. Iipumbu Sakaria, who's the Manager for Corporate Communication, talking to us about the envisioned National Housing Census that will take place from August to October 2023.